I'm proud and excited to announce that the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is now available. I've put the links to grab your copy from Amazon worldwide in the show notes, and I can't wait to see what you think. As a thank you for listening to the podcast, email podcast@rntfitness.com with your receipt, and we'll send you the free ebook version to start reading immediately. If you like a sneak peek of what's inside, you can download the first chapter at rntfitness.com/book. Also, you've heard me talking about the power of journaling for a long time, so I'm happy to announce we've now got customized RNT journals in store. There's a mix of prompts and freestyle writing, which you can take a glimpse of on rntfitness.com/journal. Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com, and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. This is the first of a multiple-part series where I'll be joined by different members of the RNT team to talk all about the intricacies of the investment phase. In part 1, I chat with Nathan Johnson about finding your deeper purpose for long-term investing and why it's so key to stay in shape for life effortlessly. I also reflect back on my relationship with food back in 2014 and how my binging and restricting yo-yo cycle almost landed me in setting up a dessert lounge. If you're someone who's in an investment phase that wants to understand the underpinning of what staying in shape with a lifestyle solution is all about, this will be a big one for you. So I was reflecting on the consolidation phase of 2014, or should I say the lack of consolidation phase in 2014, which the story is quite famous now in that I've spoken about it extensively. It's the reason why the consolidation phase exists. And in 2014, when I got into the shape of my life for the bodybuilding show, I spent a year having a really bad relationship with food, where I was binging to the point of throwing up. I was binging to the point of extreme restriction for days after. I was obsessed with food. I was making bad choices all the time. I couldn't get out of that constant yo-yo cycle, and I was going through periods of gaining weight rapidly, and then periods of restricting to kind of get the weight off. And it took me about a year to get out of that dieting mindset. And the reason why I was reflecting on it is because I was asked on another podcast yesterday about if I'd always had a good relationship with food and if I'd always had discipline with my food intake. And I said to them that no. I mean, while now I'm much more in control. 2014 and 15 was all over the place, and I always had this the drive to create a business, and RNT was the perfect channel for me. But at the time, what I was doing was I was frequenting a lot of dessert lounges. I don't know if I've told you this. I was frequenting a lot of dessert lounges, and I was I was looking for that sugar fix. I was looking for that opportunity to binge. And I thought, well, dessert lounges are great because they give you massive portions, right? And I remember being in there and I was like, oh, this must be a great business model. You just got these young people coming in, eating desserts every night. So I was set out to start my own lounge. I don't know if I told you this.
You mentioned something about it, but not to this extent, no.
So I might as well go into it now, just to share it with everyone. So I had this idea to set up something called, set up a lounge called Lulu's Lounge. So, so me and my sister have, we have nicknames for each other. I've spoken about before, and it's Lulu for both of us. And I thought, you know what, Lulu's Lounge has a good ring to it. And it was going to be a create your own dessert sort of thing. So like, the Subway philosophy. Yeah, it's going to be the Subway philosophy for desserts. And it would be like, you start with whether it's going to be waffle, crepe, or what's the other one? Yeah, it's waffle or crepe.
Cone.
Then it's, which one?
You could have a cone, couldn't you?
Yeah, cone. And then you pick your toppings, you pick your ice cream, all of that. You go through the stages, and then you get your final thing at the end, and you go to your table. And I was dead set on this. I wrote a business plan. I wrote forecasted projections for 3 years. When are we going to turn a profit on this thing? I found some units to hire, a lease to hire. I need to put down the deposit on it, and the first year's rent, and then it hit me. I was like, I can't be a personal trainer in the day and then moonlight as a dessert lounge host. I mean, it's probably a good way to get clients. You just feed them all up and then say at the end, well, if you're looking for a way to, but then on reflection, though, the reality of what was going on there was that I was probably like, then I got into the point where I was justifying my visits to these dessert lounges because I was, it's fueling my business knowledge, right? I'm scouting all the locations. But what was really going on is I was in a really bad place with food, and I was at these places eating uncontrollably, and I had no idea what to do. And I was genuinely completely lost with my relationship with food. I'd never had any problems before. Like, I never even thought I had an issue with food. I went through this dieting phase. And I got into the best shape possible. I got really, really lean. I won a competition in bodybuilding. Then I didn't know what to do. I was literally just stuck. I had no reason to stay in shape. I had no reason to watch my behavior. And more than anything, I had no plan. Like, I had no instructions on how to, what we now call consolidate. It was just, yeah, I remember being told, yeah, just kind of soak it up. You're gonna. This is the time to put on muscle. All the food you eat goes straight to your muscle, and all that bodybuilding crap that we've heard. But the reason why I mentioned all this is because I was just thinking about how in the 2 periods I've dieted since, like where I've got into really good shape, and now I stay in shape year round, where, I'm not in extreme condition. I'm not super lean, but I consider myself in shape year round, where for me, that's like 10 kilos above extremely shredded. So probably like 4 to 5 kilos above beach lean and photo shoot lean. So it's a good place to be. And if I only never need like 10 to 12 weeks to get into striated glute condition, and like 6 to 7 weeks to get into really good beach condition. So I like staying in that area now. And what I realized on reflection is there's a couple of factors involved. With the biggest one being developing and connecting that why behind your why. And understanding that, yes, at the beginning, it's like, okay, I want to get in shape. But then after, to stay in shape and to activate that behavioral mindset and identity shift you need to stay in shape, you have to have a stronger reason and a why behind your why to stay there. And it sounds cliche, like, you got to have your why. And we talk about it all the time, but if you look at all commonalities in people that stay in shape, the biggest one is a strong driver beyond the physical. And for me, right now, and that will always evolve. For me, in the last 3 years, it's been R&D. It's been the business. I stay in shape and I look after all the elements around the physical because I have the greater purpose of being a high performer for R&D. If I don't take care of my physical, then it's a detrimental effect on the entire team, the entire client entire client family that we have, and for the business overall. So for me, that's my why. Like, that's, if I miss training sessions, it's going to impact the business. If I don't eat well, it's going to impact the business. And that's such a strong why for me that staying in shape is just a byproduct then, because my behaviors align with that. My mindset aligns with that. And my identity is one of, I want to be a high performer for the business. I want to be at my best for the business. So with my identity focused on that, my actions then align to that. And now it's second nature now to train for 4 days a week or 5 days a week, to eat well 80 to 90% of the time, to hit my step target on a daily basis, to go to sleep on time, to stay hydrated. It's like the sleep thing. It's very easy to stay awake till late and binging on Netflix. And the first thing that I can't remember the last time I slept less than 7 hours a night, because for me, I know if I sleep 6.5, then there's a direct impact on the business the next day because I'm not going to be at my best. And then my training will suffer. And I'm going to be hungrier because I'm just haven't slept enough, and everything becomes harder. So there's so many different facets to this, but what's important is that it's not I'm on, I'm off. It's not, it's just my lifestyle. And I'm not trying to seek perfection in this lifestyle. I'm just trying to tick the boxes 80% of the time at least, because I know doing that is going to drive my biggest why behind my why. And the big shift from now to 2014 is in 2014, yes, I didn't have a plan, but the bigger thing was I didn't have a reason to have a plan or to stay in shape or to make that behavior shift, to make the mindset shift, to step into a new identity, because there was no driving purpose. And if I look at all commonalities in those who stay in shape and those who don't, one of the biggest ones is that it becomes more than just the physical. The physical becomes the vehicle for your greater why behind your why, which you can start to identify when you're in the grind phase and you're in the process phase and you're getting into the checkpoint, which is why one of the best things you can do once you reach a checkpoint is reflect on everything you've done so far and reflect on all the feelings you've experienced so far, because then you can build on them and you start to understand, oh, during this process so far, I've experienced X, Y, Z. I've become such a better performer at work. I'm so much better with my family. My health is better than it's ever been. And you start identifying these commonalities, these benefits, and start to think, how can I extrapolate this and drive my why behind my why even further? It's now not only about physical. It's become a critical element of my life, and it's become an essential element of my life. And I have to do this for a greater purpose. So that when I was reflecting on the two things, that's the main thing, because that's such a change in where I was 6 years ago. And now that continues to drive me further. And I'm constantly reminded of those vehicle benefits that I get on day-to-day basis.
What type of questions are you asking yourself during that initial checkpoint phase, or even now when you reconnect with those? What are you asking yourself? Because some people, they may struggle with self-awareness or just not the right questions to ask within their journal if they are journaling. What makes the connection? What type of questions should you be asking yourself, and how will that bring about the change?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things once you checkpoint, whether it's your first checkpoint, second, third, fourth, fifth, whichever one, the first question you got to ask yourself is like, who do you want to be next? Like, what's the version 2.0, 3.0, 4.0? What's the next person, next identity you want to step into? And what I always ask myself after I checkpoint is, what did I learn from this process phase? What do I want to take forward from it? Because when you're in a process phase, you become an essentialist out of pure necessity, because you're running on limited fuel and you're limited energy resources. So what do I want to take forward? Why is this so important to me? And what does it give me? And when you start realizing how much this process gives you, that why behind your why becomes so easy to identify. Like for me, it's just so clear. Like I don't even need to think about it. It's just crystal clear. Like, why do? I sleep early because of this. There's a why. Like I think you said to me, or you wrote somewhere before, you need to have a why behind your why for each of your rules.
Yeah.
And now we've translated to rules, and there's each of the rules that we kind of set on. And it might be interesting to share what the final ones we set up upon are. I don't know if you've got them up there handy, but I can give you a why behind your why on each one of those. Have you got them handy?
Yeah, let me bring them up now.
So just for some context, me and Nathan check in with each other through like our investment phase coaching. And one of the things we've been doing is knowing that my why behind my why is around R&T and driving the mission of R&T forward. What rules can I create that on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, so long as I hit them 80 to 90% of the time, will allow me to fulfill that why behind my why and step into that new identity, new improved identity. And we've spent the last 6 months doing a lot of trial and error. And I think we're going to come onto it soon, but the trial and error aspect of the investment phase is huge. It's going to be one filled with intangible gains. You're not going to have clear cut, hard data to always rely on. You have to be you have to have an experimental growth oriented mindset to want to explore different rules. And some of these won't work. And your default option for many of you who may be in your first investment phase and have been stuck in years and years of yo-yo dieting will be to diet again, will be to get a quick win, will be to, I'm going to do a quick dieting phase or recomp phase or whatever you want to call it, to get that quick win, because it's an easy way to kind of get out of it. And what it actually does is you actually never get anywhere. And what will happen is after you get that quick win, you'll be asking the same questions again. You'll be in a yo-yo mindset again. So one thing we've been doing, and what everyone who goes through an investment phase will do, is go through a period of experimentation. And this is a constant cycle. And it evolves again as your life evolves, your why behind your why evolves. So we've been experimenting with rules. We had like 10 to 15 we've kind of gone through. And finally this week, I think we've settled down on it. And Nathan said to me, look, I think if we review, because I said, I think these are the 10. He's like, let's whittle it down even further. These are the 5. Actually, you might want to explain, like you said something like, these are the 5 that put you into flow and all that sort of stuff. So maybe explain what you kind of came to from a coaching perspective.
So there's like maybe 10 plus that we've been working on. Maybe overall over the last 6 months, we've probably trialed maybe 20 different ones, up to 20 of variations of those rules. And ultimately, in everyone's life, you're looking for the way to automate a specific behavior within their day. That's it. You use rules to automate a higher level of standard compared to the rules that you were using before, maybe subconsciously. But now we're conscious about them because we know that they're really important and we can have objective data on it. It's very much like a scale weight, this rule thing. So the 6 that we've actually got is going to be no phone before 11 a.m. For Akash, that's going to leave him in a more of a proactive state instead of a reactive state. The checking that WhatsApp in the morning is going to be, triggering left, right, and centre. And we want to stay away from that ability. Not to mention, he does most of his deep work in the morning as well, which means, you need that clarity of thought. Yeah,
so that's been a big one. Like I think I wrote in the book, it's the super rule for my day. And if I ever break it, there's like such a noticeable difference. All day long, I'm checking my phone. All day long, I'm just more like I just feel on edge. I'm not in a state of flow.
Can we go into this as well? I've got a lot of clients that are currently going through their rules that say, I need to check my phone in the morning.
Yeah.
What's your thought process and question to them?
Well, honestly, like I used to be that person that would wake up at 4:30 when I was a PT and check my phone straight away and get triggered by a client cancellation first thing in the morning. But even then, for a long period of time, you wake up, you take your phone in the toilet, you look at the phone, and the reason why I'm so against it is it sets you up all day into a reactive state. You have no control over what you might see, and you just don't know. And I think like some people say they have to check their phone for an emergency purposes. Fine. If that's the case, then what I do is I'll ask people, if that's the case, then you can set up your texts if you don't use text much, or you can turn off mobile data and just ask someone ring you. And that way you can't go into, turn off mobile data. Yeah. So people can still ring you, or you can have a separate phone for it. If that's the case. But I think for most people, so long as you set the standards, so long as you set up some sort of process, if you have specific people you need to speak to, then I don't see why you need to look at your phone straight away. Do you need to extend it to 11, 12 o'clock like I do? Probably not. Maybe not. But can you wait at least an hour? Absolutely. I think everyone can wait at least an hour, and that hour can be used really productively. Sometimes it might be around kids or it might be around your spouse, but I think you can either set a rule around it or set a process around it so they have access, or a different channel. But I think there's always a rule. There's always something you can do to prevent yourself going into the day-to-day. Like, for example, even I don't go into my email inbox in the morning, but there might be things I'll check with yourself or with Pooja or specific people, but I have a different way of going into the inbox. So what I do is I have a tab which takes me into the inbox, but it opens up a different thread. And then I'll just go into the search bar and I'll type in your name. So I get anything that's related to you that's there. I would never go into the actual inbox. So these sorts of things can make a big difference, because I think it can really keep you in a more proactive state in your day as opposed to always reacting. And I think it's not just the first thing in the morning, it cascades throughout as well. So, if you can't do 11, 12 o'clock like I do, then you can at least do 1 hour. I don't see why that can't be done. And you'll be surprised how it also affects your things like food, training, steps, etc. Especially if you're training in the morning. I love training, knowing that I'm not seeing anything on WhatsApp, or because it keeps me away from distractions.
Yeah. I think it's also just it's an extension of those non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And when the diet isn't there, especially consolidation investment, when the diet isn't there to hold you back, or not hold you back, but like rein you in because it's a higher priority, you have to find that why behind your why, but you also then have to find that non-negotiability in that why behind the why. Always reconfirming, practicing those non-negotiable aspects. It's very much focused around food non-negotiable sometimes. It's definitely in the process CTP phase, but also that non-negotiability transcends the whole life. You know, I've seen people say to me that I can't put 30 minutes in for my lunch in a 12-hour working day. So you have to be non-negotiable, otherwise you don't get lunch. You know, there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be things around that day that need to be done. But if you don't serve yourself first and eat, then how are you expected to then withstand the day without snacking or have any energy to then serve other people? So having that non-negotiability really, and transcending phone, sleep, action, strategy, routines are critical.
Just with the phone thing again, it's one of the things that, like you said, is like, it's just not possible with my lifestyle. Well, what I do is, in case of like emergencies, I have a separate line that I don't give out to. I only give to very few people who an emergency might be prevalent with, and they'll have access to that, and that will give me a direct line. So I have that just in case. I think if anyone has listened to that episode with Tiffany Schlane, where she talks about 24/6 and going on for electronics once a week, but you may need like a sort of a burner, like one of those burner phones, and just give them out to people that would need that emergency line, and that's one way you can do it, because that protects your time. It really, more than anything, it's about protecting your time and energy. And people are too loose with their time and energy. Like they say yes to everything, and you have to. For my personal reason, it's like, well, once I get into the WhatsApp, once I get into that email, I'm dealing with everything else, right? But protecting that time where it's for myself, and being proactive is something only you can control. If you give that control away, other people will just dictate it. And again, another thing I get asked is, well, what if I work for a company that needs me 24/7? Firstly, I think there's very few that needs you 24/7. But if you're a company where you have to check your phone at all times, then you've got to just be more protective about it somehow. Like, you've got to figure out a way to carve it out. It might not be in the morning, it might be in the evening. Then you just got to find times in your day where you can carve out these sorts of periods. So I'm just speaking for any potential listeners who might be thinking of their own unique scenario, because everyone's got a unique scenario, right? But I think the fundamental cascading principle can be applied to anyone.
Take your time. Yeah, absolutely. The other rules, we'll go into this a bit, is 5 training days, which is 4 weights and 1 play. Deep work block, first 2 to 4 hours of the day, moving business forward. That's how you just focus straight on development and pushing forwards outside of emails that you just mentioned. Saturday restoration has to be done. Full day off.
Yeah, full day off. Yeah. That's a big one. That I've actually realized just how big that one is. Now I'm just going through all of the other ones. Actually, the training one is interesting because I used to always be about 4 days a week training for when I was in investment phases, and I still believe 4 days a week is probably the sweet spot. But I've added, and then every time I try 5. The middle session, the third session always suffers, and then the 4th, 5th drag on. So what I've done is, just because I like training in weekdays, so my weekends are free, but I like having the same sort of structure in the week. So that Wednesday, I'll still go to the gym at the same time, but I'll just do I recently was just doing like cardio, with the prowler. So it's only like 20 minutes, but I'm out. But it gives me that still sort of routine in my weekdays. And then Saturday is I'll take completely off, but everything, like I'll have minimal routine, low structure, no work, no emails. And that's been a game changer. I didn't realize just how recharged I come back on Sunday. Like by Sunday, I'm like frothing in the mouth. Like creativity is back. Everything's just recharged and I'm ready to go again. And that's been a real, like now it's non-negotiable. Like I know if I step in on a Saturday, like if into work or anything, then everything just feels harder after that.
Yeah. And then the other two is one is phone off by 8 p.m. And that's one something that we've been working on quite a lot. And that rule itself has some other cascading things that happen because of that. So it's one rule, but has, effectively 3 other triggers that come with it. First of all, one is if your phone goes off by 8 p.m., most of the time you're in bed by 10 or 10:30, I think it is.
10.
And 10. And then the second thing is that when the phone goes off, the blue light blocking glasses go on. And then that will help with the screen in the night.
This is the one that I've so the ones I've mentioned so far, they're very rare. I miss them. This is the one I struggle with the most. And I'm probably at about 40-50% on it at the moment. This is the one of all the rules, this is the one I struggle with and probably missed I missed this one most often. And I think there's a lot of different kind of causes for it. I'll try and at least go, very rare I'll take it past 9:30, but I'm still working on trying to make it non-negotiable at 8. But there are the benefits are huge. I do notice it. I just need to connect to it more.
Yeah, but that's it is right. That's what it is, right? If you're hitting 7 out of 7 on all of your rules, you're tracking the wrong rules. So if there's something to work on, and you need some deeper questioning, thought, action, planning, prep, whatever it is, that's what it needs. It's a work in progress always. That 80-90%.
Yeah.
And then the last one of that is 50 hours max on toggle.
Yeah, that's just for me to manage my mental energy units. But that would be interesting because I don't know if that one's more important than the Saturday one. So that's just one we need to. Again, I rarely break down one now though. So it's more. There's probably another rule that within that needs to be explored. But yeah, I'll come to that at some point.
Yeah. Now it's that job of just monitoring how far you go, and then that will, as we spoke about before, it like monitors the redlining as opposed to cascading triggers.
Well, one thing I've done in the last 3-4 months that's worked really well after your suggestion is the last Friday of the month off. That's been a game changer actually, because it gives a quick little reset for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Sounds bizarre, I know, right?
My checkpoint 4 months ago when we started with this was, if I can get Akash to take a day off, I've completed my job. And now we've got Fridays off once a month, so I'm very, very pleased. I've hit my consolidation checkpoint on these on the second with Akash.
So the reason why we're talking about that is around identity, around creating a new identity. No matter what phase of your journey you're in, every time you hit a new checkpoint, you want to reset, realign your why, realign your priorities, look at what the next checkpoint is, look at what the new identity you want to shift into next, and then build rules around that to fuel that, and then stay accountable to it in the process. Because I wrote an article that's coming out called Fear of Accountability. And I actually think that accountability in the investment phase is probably the most important time for it, because it's such a period of intangible gains. And once you've consolidated effectively and you begin investing, you're faced with the potential reality that you may just be in shape for life. And the reason I say that is because it's such a paradigm shift and such a new reality for a lot of people that they might not need to try something new again. Like, this is it. Like if you embrace into this, if you embrace into this period of intangible gains, you may not need to diet again out of being forced into it, not a choice.
Yeah.
You might choose to do it because you want to test yourself, but you never have to do it because you've rebounded. That's a massive difference. Yeah. So it's going to be one for intangible gains. And wherever you place yourself on the investment continuum, which we'll probably come on to soon, whether you want to just be a lifestyle solution and learn how to have your cake and eat it, or whether you want to invest heavily as a muscle builder, your approach is underpinned, no matter what, with a need to rewire your behavior, your identity, and your mindset in order to stay in control. Because in the investment phase, really, and the whole journey has a theme of control that goes underneath the whole thing. But the investment phase in particular is one about developing control. And the podcast I did recently with Tom Hollis is all about this. Is like the best benefit he's gained is that he now has the control whether he wants to maintain his body weight, whether he wants to increase his body weight, whether he wants to decrease his body weight. He's got control of that at all times. And in this phase, the only tangible measure you'll have is your physical performance, which again, we're going to come on to choosing your training methodology. But all the internal rewiring is going to be intangible. It's going to feel like a gray area. You're going to feel lost because you're going to be experimenting with rules. You're going to be undergoing trial and error with new behaviors, and you're going to be learning how to live in a new identity. And you can't objectively measure this with tangible data. You can't objectively measure an identity, but you can measure it with real-time progress over time. You can measure it by your adherence to rules. You can measure it by new behaviors that you may be doing in the future. And if you're controlling your body weight, if you're adhering to rules, and you're being a high performer in your biggest priorities, and your lifestyle solution is becoming more automatic, which means your rules are becoming more automatic, that facilitates the lifestyle solution you want to build, then you know you're in the right direction. But this isn't straightforward. And the natural reaction for almost everyone as you enter a new investment phase and you want to build your lifestyle solution is the knee jerk and to reject accountability. Because when you're questioned on your behavior, it's always easier to avoid that conversation.
Yeah.
When your thought process is being scrutinized, running in the opposite direction is the path of least resistance. Which is why, like, when I get asked, like, what I think I got asked in a Q&A recently, what's the biggest reason for failure on the journey and failure for staying in shape for life? And it's staying coachable and being accountable in the investment phases in particular, because there's just so much to be explored, and there's so much to be done that if it's that new identity, let's face it, for 80% of people, they don't have massive ambitions to build a lot of muscle. 80% of people, they want to build a lifestyle solution. They want to learn how to finally break this yo-yo cycle, finally break out this dieting cycle, and stay in shape for life. The reason what they do on an investment phase is every week you introspect with your check-in. You introspect on your rules. You introspect on how adherent you've been to them. You introspect on what's gone wrong, how you're feeling in your identity, how you're feeling in your mindset, how your behavior's been. Then through that introspection, you get given action points, and you take action in the week, and slowly but surely you begin to transform into a new version 2.0. That's how your lifestyle solution gets built. It's not, okay, I've got into shape. I know I'm doing a lifestyle solution, so now I'm going to build a lifestyle solution. No, it's a slow and hard process, because you've been conditioned for years and years to fall for quick fixes, to rebound, to yo-yo, to diet, to like play the calorie game. There's so much conditioning that so many people have been through. It's the reason why yourself, Nathan, myself, every coach on this team, every member of this team is obsessed by the journey, because we believe 100% in everything the journey delivers, and the journey is designed to kill that quick fix mentality. And that's why you have to embrace this period of, yes, it might be more intangible, but over time, through trial and error, you will gain the automatic lifestyle solution that you're after.
In principle, most people don't have an issue with fat loss. Maybe they have an issue with getting to the condition that they did during the process phase, because that's different level. You've got great coaches, you've got great action plans, checkpoint why behind your why. You're all channeling towards a higher level. But we don't have a dieting problem. We have a weight management problem. And the reason why 95% of all diets fail or more over the first 1 to 2 years is because the adoption of that lifestyle suffers. People lose their accountability. They don't take that next step, like you were saying about the purpose, the drive for why you do what you do now is outside of the physical. The people that don't have anything above that get into the shape, then stop doing the same things that got them there. And then that takes regression, and that goes backwards, and then ego takes a hit, and then that gets in the way.
You have to have a why behind your why for your investment, whether that's a bigger purpose, whether it's visual in terms of building muscle, whether it's purely health. But for most people, it typically falls around high performance in their biggest priorities. High performance in the biggest priorities, whether it's their family, their career, or whether it's to live an auto-regulated lifestyle solution. It typically falls somewhere along that spectrum, and you'll feature all of them. You'll want to look better, you want to feel better, you want to be a higher performer, you want to live that lifestyle solution. It'll be a mix of all of it, but you have to identify with it, and you have to understand that that's what the next step is. Like you said, 95% of people fail the diet. We were looking at an article yesterday which said that half the world in 2030 is going to be obese, and the industry as we know it is fueling that. The industry as we know it is obsessed with quick fixes and short-term mindsets, and the industry we know as we know it is only going to actually, ironically, make that stat worse, because they're going to set people up for failure, like I did in 2014. Like I was that kind of industry victim. I was victim of the industry and of the conditioning and the behavior of the industry of, again, shape and then worry about the rest. Worry about the rest if you no, don't worry about the rest. And that will get worse. And we don't, like I said, we don't have a weight loss problem. We have a weight management problem. And the problem is that connection to something more and seeing why what you do is more. And we talk about the physical being the vehicle. I was in the Cotswolds a couple of weeks ago, and I was just looking around and just seeing like the problem we have in weight management in this country. This is the UK, but it's worse in the US. It's bad in other countries, but the UK is the second fattest nation now. And I was looking around, and I couldn't believe the behaviors around food people had, and I couldn't believe the problem of weight that we have. And I just thought, imagine if all these people went through the journey. Imagine if all these people prioritize their physical self and activate that vehicle within themselves. How much amazing things would happen in this world if people focus on the physical and gain all the benefits that you gain from physical. Everything is underpinned by health. You can't do anything without your health and without your physical being. If you make it a top 5 priority year round, the top 5, I'm not asking for it to be the number 1, top 5, make it a top 5 priority year round. You will do amazing things in anything else you're trying to do. It's like a false economy. I was giving a talk to this group of entrepreneurs, and I said, look, it's going to feel like you're wasting time training. It's going to feel like you're wasting time preparing good food. But no, this is actually the best business development you can do for yourself. This is what's going to fuel your business. I tried cutting into my training time and step time, and all I got was collapsing at 4 a.m. twice, and a trip to A&E. That's what happens if you don't prioritize your health and you try and drive forward in other areas of your life. Your body will pull you back, and your body will be the biggest limiting factor in anything you do. Whether it's you want to run after your kids or play with your kids, or whether it's doing an adventure holiday with your partner, or being a high performer in business, your health and your physical being will always be your limiting factor, and you have to prioritize it. And you have to prioritize it beyond just the diet, beyond just getting into shape. You have to think, okay, I've got into shape. You haven't learned the habits because they're not crystallized yet. You've learned the process. Yeah. Now consolidate. Now invest in making this the reality for yourself, and the new norm, and the new identity, the new behavior, the new mindset. You have to invest in making this your new self. And just like we spoke about consolidation as being the missing piece in the industry, the investment phase arguably is even a greater missing piece now, because
now that
the lack of investment phase is the reason why we have a weight management problem.
Yeah.
Consolidation will hold it temporarily, but the investment phase is what crystallizes people to stay in the shape of their life.
Yeah. You can't progress in any area of your life without having some level of investment. Push forwards. We're always progressing. We're always working towards something. That channeling of that investment in the physical being will then allow for all the other areas to come forward too, or progress with that too. From your rule, when you train the progressively the most, that's when the business does well, or when you're working well. I know that especially even lockdown, when I was training hard, then my work was at a higher standard. My ability to cope with stress and mental resilience was better. But ultimately, now that the consolidation is what we would consider, we'd hope to consider it. Anyone that knows R&T, it's the norm. Consolidation is just what it is. This is what you do after a diet. This is what you do to ensure that you don't go backwards. The investment phase is the insurance policy so that you go forwards. Consolidation stops you from going backwards, but the investment phase stops you. It allows you to go forwards. And almost in a double-edged sword, consolidation will get you through a short period of time, but ultimately there will be a time where you play the body weight game of, staying at 65 kilos and then restricting 4 days because you had 3 higher days, or you do good on a diet. Most people finish a diet and say, I can do this now. I'll just do what I'm doing right now, but I'll have 1 higher day on a weekend, and then I'll just continue to diet the rest of the other 6 days. That's what they think a lifestyle is. But actually, a lifestyle is when you're completely in control of every situation. You go to social events, you choose the exact food that you want in the right portion with the right size. You go to, you control your day, your routine, how things affect you. There's much more that this journey gives you outside of what is just happened in that diet or what happened beforehand. I think
the body weight game is a false economy as well.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you're not, and we see this transpire through the process phase when people aren't 100%, they're like 50 to 60%, but they may do extra cardio or get on the Peloton bike for 4 hours a week to burn off the extra calories that they had from the snacking and not solve the underlying issue. And then when they come to that consolidation phase, you're then playing the body weight game because you haven't done any of the work on those 3 layers that you spoke about before, the identity, habits, and behavior changes. And then you're stuck playing the body weight game until you realize that without those 3 underpinning layers underneath, having some level of awareness and action and transformation, the lifestyle solution, it won't be for you until you work out that.
Yeah, and the other thing is you're playing the bodyweight game is, by playing the bodyweight game, it's like trying to stay at the same bodyweight, but doing all the hacks you can to stay there. The reality is you might have to accept that your bodyweight will creep a little bit. It might creep a little bit as you try and live normal rules. The worst thing to do is see it creep a little bit and then knee jerk and think you need to diet. No, you need to build your rules better, or you just need to adjust and sort of auto-regulate a little bit, and give it time. That's another thing, is just give it time. You don't need to, this is not a rush. You spent 10 years in quick fixes and yo-yos. You can't eradicate that in 10 weeks, 10 months, or even a year. There's strong research that you showed that you need to really stay in shape for 2 years in order to consolidate, in order to effectively say you've stayed in shape. And that's a big ask for people because it's so against the industry norm. Consolidation success might be controlling your body weight for 6 to 8 weeks, but I think with that, you need to couple it with good behavior patterns. If you've stayed at the same body weight for 6 to 8 weeks, but you've been buffering all your way through it, you haven't really got anywhere. You just sort of hacked it. You need to really do that without excessive buffering, without any sort of binging. It should just be sort of steady, and you've just kind of held it in the norm. And then when we talk about weight management, we talk about weight maintenance. What this doesn't mean is just a long period of stagnation. And something you said to me that I thought was brilliant a couple of weeks ago is that, and I'd like you to elaborate on it, it's around the lifestyle solution. It's not about trying to stay there. It's about being progressive in it. Can you explain more about what you meant by that?
So what I was intending on that is that, as your solution gets, new priorities, new environments, all of these different things that are constantly changing, you almost need to have that approach of that things get layered on top. There's always a layering of the whys, there's always a layering of the rules, and there's always a layering of the actions that you do on a day-to-day basis. what rule works for you this week, or what strategy works for you in 6 months' time will probably be obsolete, because most people's lives running like 6 to 12 month things when one significant event happens, whether it's, unfortunately like deaths or people in the family have hard times. But on the other side, you've got babies, weddings, all of the very exciting and joyful occasions. The law of duality really is that of good and bad that come through the years. But one thing you can't do, and what we see, is that the rules that you've built in that process phase, they don't stay around. They need a constant hit of adaptation, just like a training program or muscles. They get bigger and stronger the way you test them, and then give them time to recover, and then test them again. And in order for your lifestyle solution to be, the overall goal of a lifestyle solution is for you to effortlessly stay in shape, control every single situation, and have the skills and the tools to be able to manage every situation that is coming on to you throughout your life. But to get to that point, you will need to go through a transitional period of trialing and erroring various different things, and dealing with challenge. And through that dealing of challenge, whether it's self-created or it's brought upon you by the circumstances around you, it needs to happen. And actually, what we say is, a diet and a grind, when it's self-imposed, for a why behind your why, is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do. That's why, some people, like you mentioned about your one, when you did your photo shoot, you wanted to achieve a new level. You wanted to do it with not sacrificing social stuff, but you did it because there was an education tool to it. And it's the same with that.
Massive. Go on. Sorry, go.
You're doing rules, and you're doing a lifestyle solution not out the fear of getting fat again, but you're doing it out the ownership to want to get better. And that only comes through purpose and the actions that you want to drive towards. I really wanted to say our secret little code that we're going to say for another podcast, but I nearly said it. But it really relates back to the purpose. And unfortunately, where you are on the journey will dictate whether you found your purpose or not, and what that means to you. For me, I know my why I do what I do on a day-to-day basis, but it was only recently, since maybe 6 months ago, I've really connected to my purpose outside of myself, and I've always wanted to help people and do my job as why I do what I do. But now, through the experimentation of rules and the experimentation of designing a lifestyle of stop yo-yo dieting and stop putting weight on and stop not controlling my own situation, I've been able to find higher purpose through this process that we've been going through. And that's inevitably just changed the ability to forge and adopt a lifestyle solution and a high performance mentality by nature. I didn't do any extra journaling. I didn't do any meditation. I didn't do any the other stuff. I just found my why behind my why, related it back to the higher priorities of my life, and then everything else took its place. And then you define your next checkpoint, you define what your reward phase looks like, and then things really do start to take forwards.
So what is your why behind your why for the process now? Like, what if you've been quite open about your own struggles with consolidation, with yo-yoing, with all of the stuff. So what's helped you? Because you maintain your body weight in the best, you've had more control of your body weight in the best way you've done in your life, right? So what's been the change? Like, what are you now connecting it to, the process and just living a life that's healthy and productive?
So my why behind my why at the moment is, everything that is visual, whether it's my steps, my nutrition, my body composition, are all related back to perform better on a day-to-day basis. And my why behind my why to perform better is the purpose of R&T, to for everyone to know about it and everyone to experience the powerful powers of the journey, and delivering that in the best way that I can in my particular role. And when I connected with that and knew, reflected on the performance metrics, how I felt, how I acted, how I was improving, it just reinforced why I needed to have something bigger to drive. When you're looking forward to waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, to do some work, you've really looked out on, the connecting all of those areas. When you're not regretting or like saying, oh, I need to go to bed at 9:30 because I've got to get up at 5 a.m. It's like, I want to go to bed at 9:30 because I've got some stuff to do that's really exciting at 5 a.m. And that's where it changed for me. And I guess for now, it's like I'm very lucky to have that. A lot of people are struggling to find that and then find that connection. And that's why we need to get this message out there so that everyone can get that.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. It requires a lot of self-awareness, a lot of introspection, but then again, also action on the items that need to be ticked off. One thing you mentioned a little bit earlier around the lifestyle solution was the concept of building your education and what will happen during trial and error. And you won't even realize it because you'll feel like I'm messing up or things are changing again. Is you're building an education base. You're building an understanding of what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And that is so powerful, whether it's what foods digest well with you or whether it's what rule on your electronics that works well for you. You'll start understanding so much more about yourself that will make staying in shape effortless, and you'll be able to stay adherent to whatever goal you have for long periods of time. And a lifestyle solution, like you said, it is not a fear-based decision. It's not about, I just need to not go back. It's understandable why you think like that, or why a lot of people think like that, because it's the industry conditioning of like, let's not go back to where you were. Let's not rebound. And that's an important thing to acknowledge, but it's also a lifestyle solution. It's about staying in control and being performance driven to progress forwards at all times. And it's whether it's in it typically links to your why behind your why, but also whether it's your level of ease that you can stay in control. There's so many metrics that you can use here that will drive whether your lifestyle solution is successful or not. But what it shouldn't be for long periods of time, or even really beyond that initial consolidation phase, is not going backwards. Because if you stay in that fear-based mentality, you'll play the bodyweight game, and you'll play the hacking game and the dieting game. You want to get out of that. You want it to be performance driven. You want a lifestyle solution to serve your day to day.
And in order to do that and not go down the least path of resistance, as true by the RNT transformational journey, is that the other way is challenging. And what will happen is that if you write on a piece of paper, is like, what is my purpose? What is my why behind my why for an investment phase? What else above the physical do I have to look forward to on a day-to-day basis or drive me? And for a lot of people, that will be a question that is very, very tough to answer. And maybe the answer is something that you don't want to discover. Do you have a purpose that's higher? Are you doing something in your life that you really enjoy? Do you have that? And maybe the answer is, no, not at this moment in time, I don't. But in that clarity of understanding what is your purpose, what you'd like to do, what you're currently doing, and whether that needs to change or be the same, or you need better connection between your why behind your why and the things you're doing on a day-to-day basis. In the effort of that dip, because it will be an emotional feeling, it will be something that's quite heavy, you can then start removing the muck and moving away and transitioning through that period of addressing those concerns. The reason why it's so easy to go down the bodyweight hack route, go down the route of regaining all the weight and giving yourself the easy out, because mentally the tax of dealing with finding your purpose, dealing with some tough situations, finding what's passionate to you, is a tough task within itself. And not everyone can go down that path yet. Not everyone knows the key to the ticket, but the ticket to the race. But this is the ticket. You have to go through that challenge of, okay, well, what's my next checkpoint? What does a reward phase look like for me? What does a lifestyle solution look like for me? How is it different to what I've got now? And what's going to be that biggest driver going forwards? And what is my purpose? And what gets me up every single day? And once you find those things and go through the dip of probably not having them, or not connecting enough with them to your current job or your current lifestyle, that's when the lifestyle solution can really begin. When you start seeing where you are now, where you want to be in 2 years' time, and making steps every single week to get towards that behavior that you want to adopt, for that identity that you'd like to attain, and for the habits and actions that you'd like to take on. That's the process of a lifestyle solution.
Spot on. So for the listeners, this is going to be part one of I'm not sure how many part series of of the investment phase. We're going to bring on different members of the team and discuss the different elements of the lifestyle solution. We're going to talk about of the investment phase. Sorry, we're going to talk about the lifestyle solution rules. We're going to talk about embracing the fluff. We're going to talk about behavior, mindset, identity. We're going to do an investment Q&A. So we've been collecting a lot of questions that we've been getting on a common basis. What defines investment success? 7 habits of effective investors. So we've got a lot of different topics we want to cover over a multitude of weeks, where we'll bring on different members of the team to explore these options. But just to finish up on, I'd echo what Nathan said and just say that if there's one takeaway from here is map out what the future reward phase looks like for you, and then start thinking about the sort of checkpoints along the way that you can identify, whether that's on an annual basis with a certain type of behavioral identity change, whether it's a quarterly target of instilling a new rule or achieving a new performance target in the gym, or on a more monthly basis whereby you're looking at controlling your body weight and implementing and trial and erroring with more rules.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.